With so many of us finally glad to just be able to get haircuts again, I've been thinking a lot about hairstyles, superhero hairstyles in particular, like Wolverine. You ever wonder why Wolverine's hairdo do what it do? Well, you're in luck, because that's the topic of this episode. Because today... Unlike Norman and Harry Osborn's hair, which has no real official confirmation as to why it's like that, Wolverine on the other hand has two specific reasons for why his particular style is what it is. In fact, there are actually two main reasons for it. During his original appearances, Wolverine didn't get to show off his funky hairdo because he didn't take off his mask, which makes his total lack of mask in the movies even worse. Wolverine didn't go face-free for some time until after his debut, and during this, his look wasn't exactly 100% settled on entirely, with his original creator Len Wein imagining the character as a young man instead of the over-century-old character that we know him to be today. Furthermore, John Byrne also locked up a design of what he thought Wolverine would look like under the hood as well, but instead this blonde version of the character would end up serving as the basis for Sabretooth. Also, between his first appearance and his appearance on the cover of Giant Size X-Men #1, we can see there are a few changes. His costume went from being more in line with the animal to Wolverine to being the more familiar look that we see today, as was drawn by Gil Kane. Now, the artist for this specific comic book itself, Dave Cockrum, actually liked the look on the cover better, so he adopted the design for himself. And this was what I had always assumed was the reason why Logan's hair looked that way, as to more closely match his uncostumed look with his appearance in full regalia, so that way kids could easily identify him with or without the costume, much like how Clark Kent or He-Man's disguise is not all that hard to decipher for an adult. And well, that's what I always thought, but apparently there's nothing to back that up. Wolverine finally went uncovered in Uncanny X-Men '98 in 1976, with Dave Cockrum showing the world the unmasked Wolverine for the first time. And while this looks mostly familiar, there is one key point that doesn't get played up as much as it did upon its initial showing, and that point is his widow's peak. For you see, this trait and hairstyle was considered to be more feral-like once upon a time, and it was very common among wolf-like human characters, starting with the original 1935 film, Werewolf in London. Furthermore, this wasn't even Cockrum's first foray with this hairstyle, since before he was assigned to Wolverine and the X-Men, he had previously done work on Superboy starring the Legion of Superheroes, in which he made the character of Timberwolf look more animalistic by redesigning him to look like this, where before Cockrum came along, the character was far less stylized. But despite the significance, sadly, Logan's peak doesn't always get included in his designs. Now, while this werewolf hair does appear to have some resemblance to what we know, it's not exactly enough to justify these pronounced horns that we see Wolverine rocking. So, what's the deal? Well, that's where this second reasoning comes into play, because also back in the day and returning to the old black and white sitcoms, the jelly roll hairstyle, as it was called, was quite popular, at least among the greasers and hooligans who ride around on motorcycles. And while there were many variations to this do, you can see that before it was the Wolverines, this particular hairstyle was the Beavers, as in leave it to Beaver. And with Logan being the leather jacket wearing, motorcycle riding ruffian, the jelly roll would fit with his delinquent persona. So, on one hand, Wolverine's style is a badass combination of werewolf biker hair, and on the other hand, it's just an adorable Leave It to Beaver Eddie Munster hybrid. Well, there you go, the reasoning behind Wolverine's funky hairdo. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribing to this channel if you're not subscribed already. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.